So let's just start with your reaction. I know we've had a couple of meetings now with desalination now that it's moving forward. Just hearing from the public, what do you think are some misconceptions that people think of seawater desalination?
There's a lot of information out there, so we want to make sure that we get the right information out to the public. And so one of the things that I think some people think is that a seawater desalination plant has got smokestacks, it's going to smell. This is a water treatment facility. It is a water treatment facility. Similar, you could say similar to the one that we have. We have one water treatment plant in the city of Corpus Christi called Owen Stevens, and Owen Stevens does a lot of what this plant's going to do. And so there's people that live around Owen Stevens water treatment plant. There are people that will be living, in proximity to this water treatment plant. We need to make sure that we are good neighbors, and we need to make sure that people understand what this facility is going to look like. And so a big part of what we are doing right now is trying to make sure that folks understand that. We have some aerial drone footage that we're taking, and we're looking at creating an artistic rendering of what this facility will look like when it's constructed. Of course, a big part of what we want to do is we want to continue to engage the community. We want to make sure that folks have some input, because clearly architecture has not been completed, landscaping has not been completed. These are all things that, some folks may think it's small, but we think those are important aspects of this project. We want to make sure that it is a structure, is a facility that folks are proud of. This will be part of the community for decades. Much like Owen Stevens has been part of the community for decades, we want to make sure that this facility meets the needs of the city and is respective to the folks who live in the proximity of the facility.
With Owen Stevens, have you guys had any complaints over the years about people living around that area?
Not to my knowledge. Owen Stevens. I think one thing that our viewers, can appreciate is that water treatment plants, unlike wastewater treatment plants, there really isn't a smell. We try to make sure that even at wastewater treatment plants that smells are kept to a minimum. But this is not a wastewater treatment plant. It's not an industrial refinery. It doesn't have smokestacks. A lot of the equipment is inside buildings. There will be some truck traffic as part of the facility, but the truck traffic would be contained on Oasis Bay Boulevard Road, which is a road zone for heavier traffic. And so I think those are things that we need to make sure that the community understands. And again, part of what the city is here to do is to listen. We have to listen. That is part of our job. And again, I think the other thing that I think is really important for our viewers to understand is that the city is in the business of protecting public health and providing quality of life. And so in order to do that, we want to make sure that we are listening to the public.
And so essentially seawater desalination is you guys pull in that water from the bay, it gets treated, gets pumped out to be drinkable water, and then there's a brine discharge. And someone did come up with the point that the discharge and the intake will be sort of close together. Do you know how far apart those will be and if that might be an issue?
No, at the end of the day, that has been studied quite a bit, and the science and the data shows that there would not be any impact from the discharge and the intake being, relatively close. Ultimately, what we're concerned about is we want to make sure that the discharge meets the environmental criteria, and we want to make sure that the water produced by this plant meets the TCQ and EPA requirements. And this plan does all of that. And much like the one and only water treatment plant that we have, Owen Stevens, much of the same processes that happen at Owen Stevens are going to happen at this facility. The difference is that I like to say at Owen Stevens, we take lake mud and river mud out and we have to put it somewhere. And similarly to this process, we're going to take seawater mud. There's going to be some solid material that comes out, and that material is going to be disposed of properly at a landfill. So in fact, some of the elements that are in the seawater column that we're going to be taking out are not going back in. They're actually going to a landfill to be disposed of properly. And so we feel from an environmental standpoint, just from that alone, we feel like there is an improvement in terms of what is going back in to the ship channel. So again, this goes back to the water treatment plant basics, and I think it's important for our viewers to understand that this is a water treatment plant, much like what we have today at our Owen Stevens. Now, I will say there are differences. This plant has a very robust membrane technology that we would be using to treat this water, because when you take salt out, of water, it's a process that requires a lot of pressure to do that. And so that process involves membrane technology, which is not something that we use at our Owen Stevens water treatment plant.
Forgive me because I've heard so much about desal. Is this a 30 million or a 60 million a day?
So this is a 30 million per day water treatment plant. We believe that number makes a lot of sense, and we talked about that at City Council. We rely on predictions from entities that do this for a living. So Region N, the Region N Water Planning Group. We have a consultant who does regional planning for us. So just the residential growth alone by 2030 is 15 million gallons a day. And so we need to commit to our residences and our businesses to make sure that those residences have that water security in 2030. We also know that there's also some other potential growth aside from that. And we know that the costs are going up. We saw that 2019 to 2024, 125% increase. And from most experts in the industry, they will tell us that those costs are going to continue to go up. And so we believe that the right thing to do is to expand this facility from what was originally anticipated in 2019 to be a 20 million gallon per day plant to be a 30 million gallon per day plant.
What would you say to the people that think that this 30 million gallons a day is not going to even put a dent in what the Corpus Christi Water District needs, because you guys have giving out water to, or have customers outside of Corpus Christi?
Well, I'll tell you what, we know that this is one part of the solution to a myriad of other water scarcity challenges. We know that this is one step of many that needs to happen. And so I can attest to our viewers out there that we are looking at other water supplies. This is not the entire solution that we're bringing to the table. And frankly, our council has an expectation that this isn't just the only solution that we're going to bring to the table. Their expectation is that we look at this through many different lenses. And so if we were only looking at this as the solution, frankly, I don't think we would be doing our job and justice to our regional customers that depend on us and need us to help find solutions for water scarcity challenges.
Now, for those that think that we don't need desalination at all, and I haven't checked the numbers lately, but we were hovering around 30% water capacity as of late, is it safe to say that rainfall is not going to be enough to help us in bouncing back to 50% or so?
Correct. I would strongly agree with you on that point. I believe that our city is 100% dependent on rainfall, and that is a somewhat of a precarious place to be in. And so by developing some other water supplies, much like what we're talking about today with seawater desalination, that helps alleviate that. I always like to say, I'm in the business of protecting public health. That's the number one mission that we have in our business. We also want to make sure that we provide a quality of life to everybody, and we want to be transparent and open. And so we're in the process right now of continuing to go into numerous conversations with folks, various business groups, community engagement groups, civic clubs, professional groups. We want to make sure that the message is very clear to all of our customers who depend on us. And so we've done this all along. We've had many meetings over the last couple of years, but we want to continue to do that. And I would tell you that our job is to listen. That's what people expect, and that's what we plan to do. Is we plan to listen. And there's going to be folks out there. We understand there's going to be folks that may not necessarily see it through the lens that we see it through, and we respect that. But we need to continue to have those conversations.
And perfect segue into that is everyone is worried about their money and the cost of water. So what do we know so far about what this will do to the water rates for the taxpayers?
Those are excellent questions, and we need to make sure that the information is out there so people can make the most informed decisions. We know for a fact that a brand new water supply is going to have an impact on rates. The question is how is it going to impact our rate customers? And there's different rate classes. And so we need to make sure that this is an equitable rate, that everybody has skin in the game, that everybody benefits from this. And so that is the task at hand. This is something that we're going to be working with council over the next few months. We're naturally going into a rate planning season, and so we will be looking at this. We have a consultant that specializes in rate analysis. We're working with them as we speak. There was a lot of discussion, as your viewers probably remember, last year with rates. We're going to have those kind of same discussions with our council, and ultimately we will engage the public to make sure that we have what we consider to be the best equitable rate structure that we can put forward.
So where do we stand now with the planning stages of bringing in desalination after the votes?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Where do we stand with the planning stage?
Yes, sir. So the planning stage is this. So we are going to the contractor community here in the next few months to engage the contractor community on the next steps for selection of a company that can design and construct this facility. We know that there's a lot of interest in the contractor community, not just here in the local area, but in the state and even international. There's a lot of attention on Coastal Bend. People look to us as problem solvers, and so it is an exciting time because there are a lot of folks that want to be a part of something transformative. And so we believe that by us going out and communicating what we're trying to do, what we plan to do, there's going to be a lot of, and there already has been, a lot of interest from the contractor community. And so we need to make sure that we have a contractor who understands the community that we live in. They understand that we need to be transparent and open in what we're doing. And we need to make sure that that folks that frankly rely on this water understand who is going to be doing this work.
Now, this is a unique project and the first of its kind in the Coastal Bend. So, are you guys going to be bringing in like experts who have done desalination projects from either like the West Coast, the East Coast, or I know you visited Israel a couple of times?
And I haven't had the luxury, or I haven't had the benefit of visiting Israel personally, but I think one of the points that's really important to make to our viewers is that the desalination technology is not new technology. It's been done around the world. There's over 19,000 seawater desal plants in the world. The world does this, and I think part of the reason why the world does this is because the world has, you could almost argue that some parts of the world have a very challenging water supply crises that they've already been going through. The United States has really done, and Texas in particular, has done a very good job in developing our surface water supplies, even groundwater to an extent. We're probably not as fortunate in this part of the world where we have as reliable and quality groundwater, but that still doesn't mean that groundwater is not a viable option. And so I would say, to answer your question, we absolutely have some of the best experts already on our project. We are going to continue to develop and increase that expertise level as we go into the design and construction. We will have the leading experts designing and building this plant.
Any other misconceptions or any other changes you want out there that people should be aware of?
I think probably the most important thing for me that I take away from this is this is for the future. This is the next generation. We know that our kids and our kids' kids, there's going to be challenges that they're going to have to undertake as they get older and they have families themselves. For me, I think if we can help solve some of these challenges today, it makes it a little easier for that next generation. Would it not be nice for the next generation not to have to worry about water the way our generation is having to worry about water? So we think that this is a transformational opportunity to improve quality of life, not just for the city of Corpus Christi, but for the entire region.
And what was that targeted operational year?
So we're hoping that, or we're expecting, I should say, we're expecting to have this plant online by 2028. That's the plan.